I'd put on my sharpest clothes for this. A black blazer, white shirt, fresh kicks. I didn't belong here, but I was determined to support Natalie. She'd been talking up this corporate awards gala for weeks, saying it was important for her. So there I was, trying to fit into a world that wasn't mine. We'd driven over together. She was buzzing, her excitement contagious. But I felt out of place the minute we got to the venue. The building was huge, glass and steel, all polished like it was meant to intimidate. People in tuxes and cocktail dresses flowed in and out, their faces painted with the kind of confidence I didn't know how to fake. At the door, the doorman checked the list, his eyes scanning the tablet with the precision of someone who did this 1,000 times. He didn't look up when he said, "You're not on the list." I froze for a second, unsure how to even respond. "I'm Natalie's boyfriend," I said, my voice coming out more uncertain than I meant it to. He didn't even blink. "Doesn't matter. You're not allowed in." I stared at him, trying to keep my cool. Behind me, people were laughing, talking, drifting inside. And then I saw her. Natalie, standing with her boss, Rachel, laughing, her smile wide and carefree. They both looked at me, but there was nothing in their eyes. Not surprise, not concern, nothing. I tried again, this time a little more desperate. "I'm with Natalie." The doorman didn't budge. "Sorry, man." And then I saw it. The look. The way Natalie's eyes flicked back to Rachel. The quick exchange between them. This wasn't a mistake. This was on purpose. My stomach dropped. People started noticing, pulling out their phones, filming me standing there like an idiot. Whispers cut through the air, and I just turned away, humiliated. I walked out, my chest tight, trying to ignore the stares and the laughter that followed me out the door. I drove home in silence, the hum of the engine the only sound in the car. The city lights blurred past, and all I could hear in my head was that damn doorman's voice. "You're not allowed in." Over and over. I kept telling myself it was some sort of mistake, that maybe it was a misunderstanding, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. It wasn't an accident. They had meant for me to be shut out. By the time I got home, the house felt quieter than usual. It smelled faintly of wine and perfume, and I could hear Natalie laughing softly from the kitchen. She was buzzing from the night, clearly still riding the high of whatever had gone down at that gala. I wanted to ask her about it, but I couldn't find the words. I wasn't sure I wanted to hear her explanation. She came in a little while later, swaying just slightly. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, the same way they always did when she was tipsy. But it didn't feel real. It felt like she was seeing me through some filtered lens, like I was part of her story, but not the one that mattered. "Hey, baby, you okay?" she asked, her smile crooked. She didn't even notice the tension in my face. "Rachel said it'd be simpler if only employees and top execs attended. You know how she is. She doesn't like too many people around." I stared at her, the words rattling around in my head. So, that was it. They just decided I wasn't worth the invitation. Her laugh was a little too loud. "It's not personal. She just thought it'd be better this way. You know, for the image and all that. It's not like I had anything to do with it." She waved it off, dismissing it like it was nothing. But to me, it felt like everything. Something inside me cracked. My chest tightened, and I could feel the weight of it pressing down. "Right," I said, my voice flat. "It's about the image, isn't it?" She blinked at me, a little too drunk to catch the edge in my voice. "Of course, baby. Everything's about the brand." She took a step closer, her hand brushing mine. "Don't be mad, okay? It was just a little hiccup." I wanted to yell, to scream that I wasn't just a hiccup, but I didn't. Instead, I just nodded. "Yeah, just a hiccup." She kissed me on the cheek, still too distracted by her phone to notice how far away I felt. "I'm gonna crash. We'll talk more tomorrow, okay?" "Sure," I muttered, but I knew we wouldn't. We hadn't really talked in months, not about anything real. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The house was too quiet. I replayed the whole thing over and over. The doorman, her smile, the way she looked at me from inside with Rachel. It wasn't a slip-up. It was planned. They'd shut me out on purpose. I started to see the pattern more clearly now. It wasn't just the gala, it was everything. The way her job always came first. The way she lit up when she talked about her boss. The way I was always just there, always second, always an accessory. The way I'd gotten swept into this world that wasn't mine, only to realize I wasn't even a part of it. And Natalie, She wasn't the person I thought she was. She didn't care about me. She cared about what I could do for her story, for her brand, for her image. That was the truth. I tried to sleep, but it didn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her laughing inside that gala with Rachel, the door slamming shut in my face. I kept thinking, I don't fit here. Maybe I never did. The weeks that followed felt like an unraveling thread I couldn't pull back in. Natalie was more distant than usual, though it was subtle at first. It wasn't the kind of distance that came with big arguments, but the quiet kind, where everything felt like it was happening on the other side of a glass wall. She spent more time with her phone than with me, scrolling through Instagram, posting endless hustle culture quotes, grind mode mantras, and those polished girl boss selfies where her hair looked perfect and her eyes gleamed like she had the world figured out. I wasn't part of any of it. She'd post at trendy brunch spots in luxury outfits, and I was left on the outside looking in. I was working my usual shifts, grinding away at the warehouse, managing the team. It was demanding work, tough, physical. It wasn't glamorous, but I took pride in it. I kept things running. But to Natalie, it wasn't enough. She said so once, sneering as she scrolled through her phone. It's just not scalable. She said it like she was talking about a dying business model. I tried to laugh it off, but it stuck in my throat. One night, I was home earlier than usual and heard her talking on the phone in the other room. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I couldn't help myself. I caught snippets of her conversation with Rachel, the same Rachel who'd had me shut out of the gala weeks ago. I just don't know if he gets it, Rachel. Like, he's so comfortable. He's not hungry. He doesn't have the ambition to move up. She paused, then added in that breathless tone she used when she was trying to sound like she knew everything. I swear, sometimes I feel like he's holding me back. I can't be with someone like that. Not now, not when I'm this close. My blood went cold, holding her back. I thought about everything she'd said, how I wasn't part of the brand, how I wasn't ambitious enough. I was nothing but a roadblock in her story. I kept my head down and let the anger simmer while she kept chatting with Rachel, unaware I'd heard everything. Things didn't improve after that. If anything, they got worse. Her social media posts kept coming, all about the lifestyle she was building for herself. The luxury brunches, the private retreats, the designer clothes. She tagged every person but me in her photos. I started to feel like a ghost in her life. One afternoon, I asked her casually, "Hey, why don't you ever mention me in any of your posts?" She didn't look up from her phone. It's just not something my audience would get. You know, it's not the brand. Something twisted in my gut when she said that. It wasn't even a pause before she answered, like it was just another thing to check off on her list. Not the brand. I stood there for a moment, trying to digest her words. The silence felt thick between us, but she was already scrolling again, her eyes glued to her screen. "Right," I said, forcing the words out. "I don't fit the image." She didn't look up. Exactly. And in that moment, I realized what was really happening. It wasn't just that I wasn't part of her world. I was being erased from it. She was creating a story that didn't have room for someone like me. I was too ordinary, too real. I didn't fit the polished, perfect image she was building. It hit me all at once. She wasn't just climbing, she was pushing me down to make sure she could rise higher, and I was standing there, watching her do it, while pretending I didn't see it at all. The video showed up on my feed like a punch in the stomach. It was a short clip, maybe 5 seconds, just enough to capture me standing at the gala door, arguing with the doorman, looking like a complete fool. Someone had filmed the whole thing from inside the building, laughing as I stood there, powerless, humiliated. The caption read, "When your +1's not on the A-list, watch your dead weight." It hit me hard, seeing myself reduced to a joke like that. But what really got to me was the comment section. People tagged each other, laughing, making fun of me. Some of them were people I'd met at the gala, or at least recognized. A few of Natalie's coworkers chimed in, calling it classic and so embarrassing. My face was all over their screens like I was some kind of punchline. I didn't know what hurt more, the video itself or the fact that it was out there for everyone to see, everyone to share. It was like they were celebrating the moment I'd been crushed. Work the next day was a blur. I could feel the stares, the whispers behind my back. The guys at the warehouse tried to joke it off, pretending like they didn't know what was going on. But the way they looked at me, the way they laughed a little too loudly at nothing, it was clear. They pitied me. The pity wasn't subtle either. It was in the way they avoided eye contact, the way they kept glancing at their phones. One of them, Jake, tried to make a joke to break the tension. Yo, man, you're famous now. Got your own viral moment. You should be proud. I gave him a weak smile, but it didn't feel like a joke. It felt like a stab. I could see him trying to act like everything was normal, but I knew what was really happening. By lunch, the video was everywhere. People from other shifts were showing it to each other, and I overheard a couple of guys talking about it in the break room. Man, how do you get shut out of your girl's fancy work event like that? One of them said, half laughing. I don't know, dude. Looks like the kind of guy who doesn't get invited to that kind of party, the other replied. I tried to ignore it, but the words sank in deeper than I wanted them to. The kind of guy who doesn't get invited. That's what I was now. The kind of guy you laugh at. The kind of guy who doesn't belong. When Natalie came home that night, she didn't bring it up right away, but she knew. She had to. The video had exploded. I could see it in the way she wouldn't look at me straight on, the way she kept busy with her phone, scrolling through her notifications, checking her messages. Finally, she broke the silence. So, I saw the video. She said it casually, like it didn't matter. You're kind of a meme now, but whatever, right? It's just harmless office humor. Harmless, I repeated, trying to keep my voice even, trying not to let the anger take over. You think it's harmless that I've become a joke? She shrugged, still focused on her screen. It's just a thing that happened, babe. People laugh. They move on. No big deal. No big deal. I felt the sting of her words, the dismissal. It's a big deal to me. She didn't look up. I don't know what you want me to say. It's not like you can take it back. We all have moments like that. You just gotta laugh it off. People forget. I felt a heat rising in my chest, frustration tightening my throat. You think I forget? You think I can just laugh it off when everyone's talking about me like I'm some kind of joke? That's what I am to you now, isn't it? A joke. She sighed, her eyes flicking briefly to me, like I was some minor inconvenience. You're blowing it out of proportion. Come on. It's not like people are going to remember this in a few weeks. But they would. They already remembered. I could see it in the way she handled it. Like it didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. I realized then, in that moment, that I wasn't a part of her world. I was just a footnote in her story. Someone who was useful when it fit her narrative, but disposable when it didn't. I couldn't say anything else. What was the point? Her eyes were already back on her phone, checking her notifications, her followers, whatever was more important to her than me. I lay there that night, staring at the ceiling, the weight of everything settling on my chest. I wasn't a partner in her life anymore. I was an accessory, a background character. She was living for the applause of strangers, building an image that didn't have room for someone like me. And I realized then, I would never be a part of her world. Not the way she wanted it, not the way she needed me to be. The cracks were wider now, and I was starting to see how deep they went. I couldn't let it go anymore. The video, the way she kept brushing me off, the way she treated me like I was just some prop in her perfect little life. That night, as she scrolled through her phone again, I finally snapped. I wasn't going to sit in silence while she pretended nothing was wrong. Natalie, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but it came out tight. About that video. She didn't even look up. Oh, you're still on about that. Her fingers danced over the screen, swiping away whatever message had just come through. I took a deep breath. Yeah, I am. Because it's not just a joke, Natalie. It's me. It's my dignity. It's not funny to me. She exhaled, rolling her eyes, and put her phone down with a little more force than necessary. You're being too sensitive, she said, like it was obvious. It's just harmless office humor. People move on, okay? Stop making everything such a big deal. I stared at her. You don't get it, do you? It's not just about the video. It's about how you're treating me, like I'm not even here, like I'm a joke. She crossed her arms and leaned back, as if she was done with the conversation. Look, I can't be bothered with your insecurity right now. I'm building something here. My career, my brand, my future. You can't expect me to drop all that for some relationship drama. Something inside me snapped. The words I'd been holding in, the ones I hadn't let myself say because I was afraid of how they might sound, came rushing out. You care more about how you look to your followers, to your boss, than you care about how I feel. Her eyes flashed for a second, but she didn't respond. Is that true? I pressed, my chest tightening with every word. Am I just a thing in the background for you? Something you can hide when it's not convenient? How much of me is even real to you anymore? She stood up, shaking her head like she couldn't understand why I was making it so complicated. This is just who I am now, okay? This whole world I'm in, it's all about image. You knew that? You've seen me work for this. You can't just turn it off. This is who I am now. The words echoed in my mind. I wanted to scream, but I stayed quiet, the weight of what she said crashing down. I wasn't enough for her anymore. I never was. Later that night, after she'd gone to bed, I found the bank statements. I'd been meaning to go through them for a while, but I hadn't. I don't know why I felt compelled to do it now, but something told me I had to. I flipped through the pages, my fingers freezing as I saw the charges. Multiple ones for a so-called influencer event that had been paid for with our joint funds. Fancy hotels, flights, meals, all linked to Rachel's company. And at the bottom of the pile, I saw the last one, a charge for a private retreat. A retreat that wasn't for her, but for her boss's image development. That was her justification for it. She'd put it under her business expenses. I felt the blood rush to my face. She'd been bleeding our account dry, trying to keep up with Rachel's standards. I'd been paying for her dreams, not mine. My hands shook as I held the papers, the realization sinking in. All that money, all those bills, were being funneled into something that wasn't even real. She wasn't building anything sustainable. She was just trying to fit in, trying to live up to Rachel's standards, even if it meant I was paying for it. I put the papers down and went to the closet. I grabbed a bag, pulling clothes off the hangers, stuffing them in without much care. I didn't know what I was doing yet, but I couldn't stay another night. Not with her treating me like I was invisible, not with her acting like this was all just normal. When I walked into the living room, she was asleep on the couch, her phone still gripped in her hand, but I wasn't going to stay for her to wake up. I wasn't going to stay for her to make it my fault, or tell me I was too sensitive. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't see what was happening. I slipped out quietly, my bag slung over my shoulder, and left the house without a word. I didn't want to make a scene, didn't want her to know how much it hurt, but I was done. I had to be. I didn't know where I was going or what I was going to do next. All I knew was I couldn't keep living in this half-life where I was nothing but a shadow in her world. It wasn't worth it anymore. I wasn't at work long that day when Jake came up to me, his face tight. He handed me his phone without saying anything, and I saw the headline immediately. Rachel's company under fire. Fake influencer status. Toxic branding culture. Exposed, I felt a twist in my stomach. There, in black and white, was everything I'd suspected about Rachel's so-called empire. They'd been faking partnerships, using maxed-out credit cards to cover costs, and getting vendors to work for free. And then, right in the middle of the article, was Natalie's name, her face, her company title. Everything was tied to the mess. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I didn't even have to look at it to know it was her. But I did anyway. A quick message, "I need you to come home now. Please." My gut clenched. I hadn't even been gone a full day, but something about her tone hit different. She didn't sound like she was just annoyed or needing space. She sounded desperate. When I got back to the house, I could hear their voices before I even walked through the door. Natalie and Rachel, both of them arguing loudly in the living room. I stopped in the doorway, not sure what to do. Natalie was pacing, frantic, while Rachel stood there with her arms crossed, her usual calm face twisted in frustration. Natalie looked up when she saw me, and for a second she seemed almost relieved. "Thank God you're here," she said, her voice breaking a little. "This is bad, Sean. This is really bad." Rachel turned her eyes to me, not a hint of apology in her expression. "We need your help," she said, her tone clipped but edged with desperation. "You're the only one who's calm in a crisis. You know how to fix this." I looked between the two of them. I felt like I was in some kind of nightmare, watching everything I'd been avoiding for months finally unravel. These were the people who'd made me feel like I didn't matter, like I was just a part of their image, a cog in their machine. And now, here they were, begging me to save them. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how they were acting, how this was all falling apart in front of my eyes, and how they thought I would just jump in and help. They didn't care about me when things were fine, but now, when their world was crashing down around them, they needed me. "No," I said, my voice flat. "I'm not going to help you. Both of them froze, looking at me like I'd slapped them. Rachel opened her mouth, but I cut her off. You used me. You treated me like crap. And now that your little house of cards is coming down, you think I'm just gonna swoop in and fix it. Natalie stepped forward, desperation all over her face. Please, Sean, you don't get it. Everything's falling apart. Rachel's been doing damage control all day, and we need someone to handle the press, the finances. You're the only one who can keep things together. I shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping me. You think I'm gonna help you because I'm good at managing your mess? Rachel's eyes narrowed, her voice sharp. You don't get it, Sean. This isn't just about you and me. This is bigger than that. We're talking about everything I've worked for. Do you really want to watch it all burn? I didn't even flinch. You know what? I don't care. Not anymore. This whole thing, it's a joke. You've been living a lie, spending money you don't have, pretending everything's perfect, and you thought I wouldn't see it. Natalie looked like she was on the verge of breaking. You're just going to leave, after everything. I looked at her, feeling the weight of all the months, the lies, the dismissals. I already left, Natalie. I left when I realized I wasn't part of your plan, when I was nothing but an accessory. You didn't want me then, and you don't get to need me now. Rachel was silent for a moment, her eyes flicking between us, but she wasn't looking for a solution. She was looking for someone to blame, someone to fix the mess she'd made. I took a step back, finally understanding what I needed to do. I'm done. I don't want any part of this. This was your world, not mine. And now you're going to have to figure it out on your own. I turned and walked toward the door, not looking back. I wasn't saving them. I wasn't going to be a part of their lies anymore. As I stepped out, I heard Natalie call my name, but I didn't stop. I could feel the weight of everything lifting off my shoulders, the freedom settling in my chest. They were the ones who had to live with the fallout now, and I wasn't going to be the one to help them pick up the pieces. They had burned that bridge long ago. A few days after I walked out, I thought I was done. I had no interest in looking back, no interest in piecing together the wreckage of what was never really my life. But then I got a message. It was from Sonia. I didn't recognize the name at first, but then the message came through clear as day. I used to work for Rachel. I know what happened. You deserve to know the truth. I sat there staring at my phone, my stomach already tightening. I wasn't sure if I wanted to know the truth, but I had to. Sonia didn't waste time. She laid it all out. How Rachel and Natalie had been using me as their scapegoat in team meetings, calling me dead weight and a distraction. How they'd laughed about it, told everyone I couldn't keep up. I knew it was bad, Sonia wrote, but I didn't know how far they'd take it. But that wasn't even the worst part. Sonia told me that Natalie had authorized a transfer of funds from our joint account, the one I had worked my ass off for, to pay for a luxury conference Rachel had labeled critical exposure. The kind of event that didn't help anyone but Rachel's brand. That wasn't just a mistake. That was theft. And Natalie knew exactly what she was doing, the worst part. They thought I'd never figure it out. They thought I was too stupid, too trusting to ever look at our finances closely. I couldn't breathe for a second. My vision blurred. They'd been taking from me the whole time, using me as the cash cow to keep up their fake world. I'd been the one supporting their fantasy, paying for their trips, their luxuries, their image. And the whole time, I was just a joke to them. I didn't know what to do with the anger, the disgust crawling through my veins. So I decided to do the one thing I'd been avoiding for weeks. I went back. It wasn't about getting answers anymore. I wasn't trying to understand what had happened. I knew what had happened. I was trying to get closure, even if that meant confronting Natalie one last time. When I walked through the door, I saw them immediately. Natalie sitting on the couch, Rachel standing by the window, both of them frozen when they saw me. I didn't even have to say a word. They knew why I was there. I didn't give them a chance to speak. I dropped the bank statements and the messages on the table between us. I know what you did, all of it, using me as a scapegoat, stealing from our account, letting Rachel drain everything I worked for. Rachel's eyes flicked nervously between Natalie and me, but Natalie didn't look surprised. She didn't even try to deny it. I never thought you'd find out, she said quietly, her voice distant. I just wanted to be somebody. I thought if I kept pushing, if I kept moving up, maybe I'd matter, maybe I'd be more than just me. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, the anger pressing against my ribs. You already were somebody, Natalie, I said, my voice thick with disbelief. You were a person. You didn't need to tear me down to make that happen. You could have had something real, but you chose to use me. You chose to burn me alive just to get ahead. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but no words came out. I could see the cracks in her carefully constructed facade, the guilt bubbling to the surface. But I wasn't interested in her excuses anymore. I leaned in, locking eyes with her. You don't get to come back from this. You don't get to take everything from me and then pretend it's all okay. You already made your choice, and so did I. She looked like she might cry, but I didn't care anymore. I'm done, Natalie. I'm done with this. I'm done with you. You're just a user, and I'm not going to be part of your game anymore. I turned and walked out, not looking back. She didn't call my name. She didn't beg, and I was grateful for that. As I walked out the door, I could feel it, the weight lifting off my shoulders, the last piece of her finally falling away. The truth was ugly, but at least now I knew exactly what I was walking away from. I wasn't going to be her scapegoat, her punching bag, or her fool anymore. And as I drove away, the finality of it settled in. They would have to clean up the mess they'd made themselves. Because I wasn't going to be there to fix it, not anymore. I found a small apartment a couple of weeks later. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I took the first place I could afford, a tiny one-bedroom on the edge of town. It didn't matter that it was small. It didn't matter that the paint on the walls was chipped, or that the carpet was old. What mattered was that it was mine. There was freedom in that. I spent the first few days setting it up. I hung pictures, some old prints I'd gotten from hiking trips, a couple of landscapes, a shot of a foggy morning in the woods, and one of me standing on a cliff looking out at the ocean. I started to build little spaces for myself. A reading nook by the window with a soft chair and a lamp, my favorite books stacked up beside me. I even started cooking again, something I hadn't done in months. The smell of garlic and onions in the pan, the sizzling sound. It felt real. I threw myself into work. I needed to, honestly. I wasn't sure what I would have done without it. My boss noticed right away. He gave me a shot at managing a new branch location, something I wasn't expecting. But it felt good to have that kind of responsibility again. It gave me purpose. I found myself showing up early, staying late, feeling a sense of pride that had been missing for a long time. I reconnected with a few old friends too. It wasn't like I had a ton, but the ones I did have were real. They weren't part of some manufactured world, pretending to be something they weren't. They were shocked when they saw me again, especially when I showed up smiling. "Damn, Sean, you look good." "Happy," Kyle said, clapping me on the back. "I haven't seen you like this in forever. You actually look like yourself again." I hadn't realized how much I'd stopped smiling until he said that. It was like I'd spent so long forcing myself to live in someone else's idea of who I should be that I'd forgotten what my life felt like, what it felt like to breathe freely. I even got back into hiking. I hadn't gone in over a year, not since Natalie had told me it was too boring or too low value. But I went out to the same trails I used to love, the ones that took me up into the mountains where everything was quiet except for the crunch of leaves under my boots. I brought my camera with me again, started taking pictures of the same things I used to capture, sunsets, old trees, the world as it was, without the filters. It felt good to slow down and just be. In the middle of it all, Natalie tried texting me a few times. At first it was just a, "Hey, I've been thinking about you" message. Then it turned into something more desperate. "I'm sorry, Sean. Can we talk? I didn't mean to hurt you." I didn't respond. I saw the messages, but I didn't feel the need to answer. I didn't need her apologies. The peace I felt now was louder than any apology she could offer. I wasn't the guy who'd let himself be gaslit anymore. I wasn't the guy who'd stand in the background, waiting for scraps of attention. She tried once more, a message saying, "I miss you. Can we talk about it? I need closure." I thought about it for a second. What closure was there to have? What was there to say, other than that I was done? I deleted her messages and turned my phone off. The next few weeks were quiet. I'd wake up early, drink coffee, go to work. I took walks on the weekends, explored new parts of the city, tried new restaurants. I was building a life without her in it, and for the first time, it felt like I was living it for me. There was no more pretending, no more second-guessing myself. I wasn't her accessory anymore. I wasn't anyone's backup plan. I realized I was actually happy. It was months later when Natalie's name popped up on my phone again. I hadn't heard from her in what felt like forever, and I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity won out. "Hello," I said, my voice steady, not sure what to expect. There was a long pause before she spoke, and when she did, it sounded different, small, like someone who'd finally run out of things to say, who didn't know how to be the person they used to be. "Sean," she said, her voice quieter than I remembered. "It's Natalie." I took a breath, trying to keep myself steady. I wasn't angry anymore, but I wasn't ready to pretend everything was fine either. "Yeah, I know. I don't know where to start," she said, her words coming out in a rush. "I lost everything, Sean. My job, my apartment, my reputation. Rachel's company is, well, you probably know what happened. It all came crashing down." I didn't say anything. I wasn't going to rush in, wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of thinking I'd feel bad for her. "I didn't mean for any of it to happen the way it did," she went on, her voice breaking. "I never wanted to hurt you. I got caught up in the image, the success, the way I thought things were supposed to be. And now, it's all gone. I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry for what I did to you." I sat there for a second, the silence stretching out between us. I could feel the weight of her words, but I wasn't sure what to do with them. I hadn't wanted her to hurt. I hadn't wanted this for her. But I'd learned a long time ago that her actions weren't about me. They were about her. "I appreciate the apology," I said, my voice calm but firm. "But that's not going to change anything. What happened? What you did, that's not something I can just forgive and forget. You used me, Natalie. You used me to build your image. I wasn't a person to you. I was a prop." She didn't say anything at first, and I could hear her breathing, like she was waiting for me to soften, to give in. But I wasn't going to. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," she whispered again. "I was wrong. Can you ever forgive me? I want to make it right." I sat back, leaning against the wall, staring at the empty space in front of me. I thought about all the time I'd wasted, all the ways I'd ignored myself just to try and make her happy. I'd wanted to believe the best in her. "I already have," I said quietly. "But forgiveness doesn't mean we go back. We're done, Natalie. We're done for good." There was another long pause. I could hear the weight of it on the other end. "So that's it?" She finally asked, her voice smaller than before. "That's it," I said, my words final, like the last page of a book. She let out a shaky breath. I guess I understand." I didn't respond right away. I wasn't going to drag it out. There was nothing else to say. "Take care of yourself, Natalie," I said, and then I hung up the phone. The room felt quieter somehow, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like closure, real, final, concrete. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The weight that had been on my chest for so long, the anger, the confusion, the disappointment, was gone. I had nothing left to prove, nothing left to fix. I was free. And for the first time in a long time, I could breathe. I decided to start traveling. Nothing crazy, just places I'd always wanted to see but never made the time for. I wasn't looking for anything fancy, just an escape, a way to remember what it felt like to do something for myself. So I packed a bag, hit the road, and let the places come to me. Portland was one of the first stops. It wasn't some dream vacation, just a place I'd always heard good things about. I wandered the streets, took photos, tried local food, and ended up in a camera shop, just killing time. That's where I met Lacey. She was working behind the counter, rearranging a display of old film cameras when I walked in. She had that easy smile, the kind that makes you feel like you've known someone for years, even if you haven't. I asked her about the cameras, and we started talking. The conversation was simple at first, about photography, about life. But as we kept talking, it felt real, like she wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was just herself, grounded, funny, totally uninterested in the kind of social status I'd been wrapped up in for so long. We spent hours talking in that shop. Not about anything huge, just small stuff. Books we liked, music, random thoughts on why the city felt so alive. There was no rush, no pressure. It wasn't some grand romance or dramatic meeting. It was just two people having a conversation, and it felt refreshing. For once, I wasn't trying to be anything. She wasn't either. We exchanged numbers, but it wasn't like before. No expectations, no deadlines, just a connection. She'd text sometimes, we'd chat, but it wasn't about building something up to prove anything. It was real, no strings, no games. It was simple. One morning, a couple weeks later, I was sitting outside my apartment with coffee in hand, the the sun finally breaking through the clouds. I'd spent the morning walking around the neighborhood, just appreciating the quiet. And it hit me then. I hadn't thought about Natalie in weeks, not once. It was like a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying had finally dropped. I could feel the warmth of the sun on my face, and for the first time, I wasn't running from anything. I wasn't chasing something I'd lost. I was building something better, something real. I smiled, feeling like I had all the time in the world. I didn't need anyone else's approval to feel okay anymore, and that was enough.